Hi, welcome to Torah 101. Every week we read the parasha. This week, our group falls on Pesach, on Wednesday evening when we'll be having our Seder. And we'll be reading Exodus 12. There's nothing that speaks louder than words. So whatever you're doing, whether you're cooking or driving in your car, let's just listen to the words that God gave Moses. And we are to read these every year to remind us and our children and our grandchildren of the ever-present God of the universe. So allow me to read Exodus 12. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in Egypt, "This month must be the first of all the months for you, the first month of your year." In other words, it's our new year. "Speak to the entire community of Israel and say, on the 10th day of this month," which was last Shabbat, "each man must take an animal from the flock for his family, one animal for each household. If the household is too small for the animal, he must join with his neighbor nearest to his house, depending on the number of people. When you choose the animal, take into account what each can eat. It must be an animal without blemish, a male, 1 year old. You may choose it either from the sheep or from the goats. You must keep it until the 14th day of the month, when the whole assembly of the community of Israel will slaughter it at twilight. Some of the blood then must be taken and put on both doorposts and the lintels where it is eaten. That night, the flesh must be eaten, having been roasted over the fire. It must be eaten with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roast it over the fire, with its head, feet, and entrails. You must not leave any of it over until the morning. Whatever is left till the morning, you must burn. This is how you must eat it: with a belt round your waist, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. You must eat it hurriedly. It is a Pesach in honor of the Lord. That night I shall go through Egypt and strike down all the firstborn in Egypt, man and beast alike, and shall execute judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord." By the way, the firstborn is a firstborn male. "The blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you live. And when I see the blood, I will pasach, I will block the door, and you will escape the destructive plague when I strike Egypt. This day must be commemorated by you, and you must keep it as a feast in honor of the Lord. You must keep it as a feast day for all your generations. This is a decree for all time. For 7 days, you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day, you must clean the leaven out of your homes. For anyone who eats unleavened bread from the first to the 7th day will be cut off from Israel. On the first day, you must hold a sacred assembly. On the 7th day is another sacred assembly. Those are Shabbats. On those days, no work must be done, and you will prepare to eat only what each requires. You must keep the feast of unleavened bread, because it is on that same day that I brought your armies out of Egypt. You will keep that day, generation after generation. This is a decree for all time. In the first month, from the evening of the 14th day until the evening of the 21st day, you must eat unleavened bread. For 7 days there may be no leaven in your homes, since anyone, either stranger or citizen of the country, who eats leavened bread will be outlawed, cut off from the community of Israel. You will eat nothing with leaven in it. Wherever you live, you will eat unleavened bread." Moses summoned all the elders of Israel and said to them, "Go and choose a lamb or a kid for your families and kill the Pesach. Then take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and with the blood from the basin, touch the lintel and both doorposts. Then let none of you venture out of the house until morning. Then when the Lord goes through Egypt to strike it and sees the blood on the lintel and on both doorposts, he will pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to enter your homes and strike. You will observe this as a decree binding you and your children for all time. And when you have entered the land which the Lord will give you, as he promised, you will observe this ritual. And when your children ask you, what does this ritual mean? You will tell them, it is the Pesach offering in honor of the Lord who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt. Actually, he didn't pass over the houses. Pesach means to stand in front of it and protect the house. In the houses of the Israelites in Egypt, and did not strike, but spared our homes. And the people bowed in worship. The Israelites then went away and did as the Lord had ordered Moses and Aaron. And at midnight, the Lord struck down all the firstborn males in Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, heir to his throne, to the firstborn of the prisoners in the dungeon, to the firstborn males of all the livestock. Pharaoh and all his officials and all the Egyptians got up in the night, and there was great wailing in Egypt, for there was not one house without its dead. It was still dark when Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Up, leave my subjects, you and the Israelites. Go and worship the Lord as you have asked, and take your flocks and herds as you have asked, and go, and bless me too." The Egyptians urged the people on and hurried them out of the country, because they said, "Otherwise we shall all be dead." So the people carried off their dough, still unleavened, their bowls wrapped in their cloaks and on their shoulders. The Israelites did as Moses had told them, and asked the Egyptians for silver and gold jewelry and clothing. The Lord made the Egyptians so impressed with the people that they gave them what they asked. Thus, they despoiled the Egyptians. The Israelites left Ramses for Sukkot, about 600,000 men on the march, not counting their families. The Erev Rav, the mixed multitude of people, went with them, and flocks and herds, quantities of livestock. And with the dough which they had brought from Egypt, they baked into unleavened cakes, because the dough had not risen, since they had been driven out of Egypt without time to linger or to prepare food for themselves. The time that the Egyptians spent in Egypt was 430 years. This actually is from the time that Abraham had his first vision. They were only in Egypt for a little over 200. On that very day that the 430 years ended, again from the time Abraham had his vision, all the armies of the Lord left Egypt. That was a night when the Lord kept vigil to bring them out of the land of Egypt. And this same night continues to be a night when the Lord keeps vigil for all the people of Israel throughout all their generations. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "This is the ritual for Pesach. No alien may eat it, but any slave bought for money may eat it once you have circumcised him." The alien is someone who does not want to be part of Israel, but the slave is, the ger is. No alien and no hired servant may eat it. It must be eaten in one house alone. You may not eat any of the meat, take any of the meat out of the house, nor may you break any of its bones. The whole community of Israel must keep it. Should a stranger residing with you wish to keep the Pesach in honor of the Lord, all the males of his household must be circumcised. He will then be allowed to keep it and will count as a citizen of the land. Notice that. He will count as a citizen of the land. There is no Shabbos Goy. But no uncircumcised person may eat it. The same Torah, the same ordinance will apply to the citizen and the ger who is resident among you, the stranger among us. The Israelites all did as the Lord had ordered Moses and Aaron. And that very day, that same day, the Lord brought the Israelites out of Egypt in their armies. So that is the end of Exodus 21. And I hope that all of you who are having your Seders will enjoy it with your families and will remember we must teach this to our children. For the story of Pesach is the essence, is the prototype, the formula for what happened to our people throughout all our history. I wish you a Chag Pesach Sameach.